Today, we're talking about a difficult but very crucial topic, and that's what happens to Zimbabwean when they pass away abroad. So, whether you're on a visa or a permanent resident or you're a citizen of the country that you live in, the legal framework really differs, and you need to be aware of this to be able to make an informed decision. And also, coming from Germany, the repatriation cost would be approximately 10,000 US dollars, and it would take 1 to 3 weeks for your body to get to Zimbabwe. So, this is a very important topic, and I strongly believe it needs to be addressed, and it's something we as parents should take care of whilst we're still around. For those of you that are new to my channel, my name is Tafara. I'm Zimbabwean and I'm raising my absolutely amazing teenager here in Germany. And in this space, we talk about motherhood, parenting, and topics, that parents raising children abroad are faced with on a daily basis, weekly, once off, you name it. So if you're new here, please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any more insightful and interesting topics that I cover in this space. Some of you might be wondering, what does this topic have to do with this channel? I think it's a very, very important, but it also depends on which country you live in, right? There's the moral obligation and then there's the legal obligation. So here in Germany, when somebody passes away, it's the responsibility of the inheritors to take care of their funeral costs and everything funeral related. So commonly it's the spouse and children, but in the event that there's no spouse, this falls as the children's responsibility. So I think it's very, very important that we address that, so that we can eliminate a layer of stress one day when the day comes. That's how this ties in with the parenting aspect. Today I'll mainly be talking about making sure that you have the right funeral policy, but by the same token, I think it's also very important that you have a will, so you express your last wishes and your loved ones know what your last wishes are, and that is formally noted and legally binding, especially for those in interracial relationships. You don't want a situation where your family is now fighting with your spouse, your partner. They're saying, this is how it's culturally done, this is our tradition, so and so has to be buried in Zimbabwe. And their partner is saying, no, he or she told me something different because we have our children here, our families living here. We had the agreement that, we're going to be buried here. Now people are fighting instead of focusing on mourning or celebrating the deceased life. Those are really not nice situations to be in the middle of. But the main reason that led me to bring up this topic, though, is the GoFundMe, pages or profiles that I see when a Zimbabwean person has passed away and now the family can't afford, the repatriation costs for the deceased to be sent to Zimbabwe. I find that so heartbreaking. I find it so sad, and I strongly believe that it can be avoided. Another thing that I don't like about these GoFundMe, people are so quick to start commenting and sharing their opinions when they don't even know the person that passed away, when they don't know their family. They'll start saying, "Hey, vakarasa mwana, kana kuti vakarasa so and so." But in some cases, you find that it's the breadwinner that's living overseas, and their dependents in Zimbabwe, are living off the money that they're sending. And when this person passes away, if they had no savings and they were the breadwinner, sometimes the family then doesn't have money to bring the person back to Zimbabwe. And 4 months later, you still see this GoFundMe page exists, and people are still trying to raise funds so that they can send somebody back home to respect their last wishes. So I really believe this is something that we should address. There are tools in place to avoid being in such a situation, and for me, it also falls under protecting your legacy. I don't want to find myself in a situation where you know that's my legacy, because that would be really unfortunate. So because it's avoidable, I've brought this topic up today. I'd just like to emphasize that today's episode is more of an appeal, because I would love to see a world where my fellow Zimbabweans aren't finding themselves in this unfortunate situation. All right, so I think the first thing that you really have to ask yourself and answer is, when you do die, do you want to be buried in Zimbabwe or do you want to be buried in the country that you're living in? Because the legal framework, varies and differs. And like I mentioned in the beginning, it also depends on your status in that country, right? So if we assume that you want to be buried in Zimbabwe, I would highly recommend that you get, the right funeral policy. The most popular companies are Nyaradzo and Doves. They may also go by other names, but that will mainly cover the costs of, repatriation. And like I mentioned in the beginning, from Germany, it's approximately 10,000 US dollars. So, additional to your family already mourning and grieving and having all that stress, you don't want people to now be gathering, trying to additionally collect $10,000 to get your body back home. In the event that you want to be buried in the country where you live, you may not necessarily have to then get a funeral policy, because here in Germany, yes, they do have funeral policies, but sometimes one may already also have a life insurance that, allocates a certain amount to funeral expenses. I think it's just really important to do that research, know where you want to be laid to rest, do the research, for the legal formalities around that. And this is mainly a once off thing. It's not like something you have to do on a weekly basis and it's like, oh, you're revisiting this topic. That's not fun to address. So, do it once, you're done with it, case closed. Although I'm saying it's a once off thing, it also depends, obviously, on your status in that country. So, if you're on a visa, do the research of the implications and, the formalities of a person on a visa for either options. And when your status does change from visa to permanent resident, you then do need to do that, that research, just so you're aware of what has changed, what hasn't changed, if there are any things that you need to update, and of course, also inform your loved ones. And likewise, if your status changes from permanent resident to citizen, because you may think that, okay, let's say you're a German citizen, you're planning on being buried in Zimbabwe. What does that look like? It may not be as easy as you think it is, or you may then pass away and your family finds out that you can't be repatriated because you didn't take care of stuff in good time. I'm not going to keep today's video too long, because this is just like a kind reminder in case this is something you hadn't looked into. And for those of you that have already aired this topic with your loved ones and it wasn't received well, this is a perfect opportunity for you to send this video to them. You can even be like, Nyaradzo kutaura naTafara mazivano. You're done. They're gonna watch it, but they're gonna get the message. Okay, if you're gonna use that strategy, don't use my exact words, because when they watch it and they get to this part, they'll be like, did you just play me? Okay, I'm just going to summarize. Most important thing is to plan ahead. Talk to your family, your loved ones, have a will in place, have your emergency contacts defined, and your last wishes expressed, and make sure that those people that are responsible for executing your last wishes when you're gone, they're fully aware of it, and they know where to get what whenever they need it. Next point is that you should get an insurance that aligns with your needs. If you want to be repatriated, like I mentioned, Doves and Nyaradzo are the ones that I know, the ones that are popular. There may be other options in Zimbabwe. I can't speak of them because I don't know them. But also, if you don't plan on being, laid to rest in the home country, then find out what options you have in the country that you live in. It may not be necessary to get a Zimbabwean funeral policy. Stay informed about your immigration status, because this may have an impact on the assistance that you can receive or cannot receive. I know I said it's a topic you only visit once, but when your status does change, and that's not so often, it would be a maximum of 3 times that you're visiting this topic, but you have nothing to lose by doing it. Lastly, I'll say that you should keep copies of, your important documents, ID, birth certificate, passport, medical information, insurance, whatever it is that, your emergency contact may need when the day comes, just so that they're well aware of where to find these documents and people don't lose time looking for this stuff where, when the day comes. Like I said, repatriation can take 1 to 3 weeks based on whatever paperwork needs to be done. Death is never easy, but being prepared, lessens the burden that your family has as they are mourning you or celebrating your life. So I'd highly recommend that you look into this topic. If you haven't already done so, before you go off YouTube, please subscribe to my channel, like this video, and drop a comment in the comment section if you have any insightful information you'd like to share on this topic. And I hope this was of some help to you or a loved one. See you next time.
Like, comment, subscribe, and share.